when my art becomes too easy to create, I become a little bit unsatisfied with it. I become a little bit bored, and I need to find something else about it to sink my teeth into in order to really enjoy that process again. It's kind of like solving a puzzle. Once the puzzle's done, you lose interest in it. And if you were to play a video game that had no challenge within it, if it was just God mode all the way through, then also that wouldn't be a whole lot of fun either. So I think as artists, we really do, well, again, you can't speak for everybody, but I think a lot of us don't realize that we actually get a ton of fulfillment and enjoyment out of the obstacles that we come up against and figuring out how to get past them. There is a few people right here in the Academy who have these incredible stories inside their mind, inside their imagination that they have been just waiting to tell. And they know that they've got to develop the skill to be able to draw in order for them to illustrate it themselves. But that can be a little bit frustrating because, of course, it takes time. It takes time to really hone your abilities to a level where you could create the kind of art for that amazing story you've got inside your head to a degree of quality that you'd be satisfied seeing within the story. Because let's face it, this story is really important to you, and you don't want to be creating artwork that's subpar or mediocre. You want it to be amazing. You want it to be mind-blowing. You have to understand that if that story is really important to you, and it's going to take you, 2 to 5 years in order to get your abilities to that pristine level of quality that you're looking for the book, do you have enough fuel in the tank to get there? Are you that motivated to make it happen? So micro and macro perspectives is something that I'm taking into account all the time. We can often get caught up in the micro considerations of what it is we're doing, of our art. We can lose sight of the forest through the trees, essentially. And so you do want to zoom out from time to time and consciously push yourself to do this and look at the overall picture. Are all these little things that I'm doing, are they serving the greater goal that I've set for myself? Are they getting me closer to that? The macro perspective is so valuable because we often get caught up in the micro. That's the problem. And we got to take a step back, whether it's taking a day off from our art, whether it means going on some kind of vacation and just reassessing things. I do it all the time. And you need it in order to clear your head, in order to hit the reset button and to come up with better solutions to the problems that you're either encountering now or will encounter in the future. This goal that you have, it's so large, so grand that very likely it feels overwhelming for you to tackle. Analysis paralysis, right? Something that is that large and great that you want to go after, it's going to stop you in your tracks and it's going to leave you wondering, where the heck do I begin with this? My best advice to you would be to small chunk it. Right, work your way back from the big overall goal and look at the individual little goals, the milestones that you've got to meet along the way in order for that big goal to happen. And I would tell you to make that large goal, the biggest goal that you have, to make it ridiculous. Because if you can make it ridiculous but believable, okay, so you want to have no doubt that you really will be able to meet that goal and accomplish it. But I want you to make it great and grand because that's going to be a driving force for you as you push yourself through those little milestones that you've got to meet along the way in order to actually arrive there. If that larger goal isn't going to be big enough to sustain your motivation, you've got to blow it up. You've got to make it even more desirable for yourself. Because when we can head toward desire and away from pain, what's going to happen if you don't meet that goal? Maybe you end up on your deathbed one day and you feel just massive amounts of regret because you were never able to make that goal happen. That is a hardcore force of negativity that can propel you away from that particular outcome and toward the positive one. What's going to happen when you do meet that goal? What's that going to mean? How's it going to make you feel? And what kind of impact is that going to have on you and the people around you, on your abilities? Make that large goal as amazing and as grand as possible, and then figure out what the little milestones are along the way will need to be in order to get there. Then break those down into sub-goals that you need to accomplish in order to meet each one of those milestones. Let's say you're just starting out and you're learning how to draw for the first time. Well, of course, you want to draw characters. That's one milestone, is to be able to draw characters with this grand vision that you have, which is to create an amazing comic book. But to draw characters, what do you have to learn for that? Well, you've got to learn anatomy, you've got to learn proportions, you've got to learn figure drawing, how to pose your characters. You're going to be able to draw those characters dynamically in space. Okay, so you work your way back. Well, what do I need to do in order to be able to construct a basic figure in perspective? You need to know about form, basic form. So you take it even a step further back from that, and you go deeper and deeper and deeper, and you drill down into the smallest activity that you need to do in order to conquer the first phase of you becoming amazing at drawing characters so that you can become amazing at drawing comic books. And let's say that that's nothing more complicated than drawing cylinders and cubes. Now, drawing cylinders and cubes is pretty darn boring. It's kind of, unfulfilling. It's not why you decided to become a comic book artist in the first place. You want to draw something much cooler than that. But because you know why you're sitting down to practice those cubes and cylinders, you've got the motivation to do it. There's a reason for you doing that very simple and basic first steps activity. You're going to get really good at drawing those cylinders and those cubes. You're going to be able to draw them soon enough from any perspective and angle that you can possibly think of. You're going to become comfortable and confident rotating them around in space and presenting them from any viewpoint possible. And then that's when you know that you're ready to start taking those primitive forms and constructing a basic mannequin model that you would use as the foundation for your characters later on. And you would get comfortable at drawing that mannequin model from the front, from the back, from the side, from the three-quarter angles, and eventually you'd get the ability to start to pose it in a variety of different arrangements, compositions, and so on and so forth. You work your way up through the layers. If you're able to take that approach to whatever big goal you have, to break it down to those little sub-goals, those little small missions, right? And to accomplish those missions so that you can get to the next level. So think of the big goal as the end of the game. And you've got multiple levels that you've got to go through, manageable, bite-sized levels that you'll go through in order to make progress throughout the game and ultimately reach the end. This is something that happens all the time for me as well. You're drawing and you think that whatever it is you're drawing is on a good path, that it's looking great, and you think that it's, hey, this is going to turn out well. And then you take a moment away from it. Maybe you grab a coffee, maybe you grab lunch, maybe you take a nap, you come back to it later on, and there's a whole bunch of stuff all of a sudden that you can see that is off with it. What happens when we're working on our art and we're not breaking away from it at any point is we get tunnel vision. So we sort of don't see where the mistakes are occurring because we're so involved in the process. And it's only once we get a new perspective that we can actually see where those mistakes are potentially occurring and make the corrections required in order for us to lift the quality of the art to the standard that we're looking for. The easiest way to do this without, having to actually step away from the PC or the tablet or the piece of paper that you're working on is to flip it. Now, if you're working traditionally, you would flip it in a mirror, but What you can do if you're working in a digital drawing application is you can hit the mirror button and it will flip the artwork. And you'll see me doing this with mine all the time during the demonstrations that I show you here in the Academy. But when you flip it, that gives you that automatic new perspective and allows you to spot where the various errors are occurring within your art so that you can attend to them real time as you're working on the piece, rather than having to wait a few hours or, to take an extended break. You're able to actually work on it right then and there and address the issues that are coming up when you see it in that flipped orientation.